Looking ahead, folks, to the 2019 college football season, and in particular when it comes to teams that should be on upset alert at some point in this 2019 season, from Brad Crawford and 247sports.com. 10 games with upset alert written all over them. Late night field rushing and goalposts leaving the stadium used to be what made college football great. Hostile environments combined with unexpected performances resulted in a bevy of upsets annually, unpredictably, that put an emphasis of the importance of the regular season and the week-to-week grind within top conferences. But now, the game's lack of parity at the top is a real problem, and it's unclear how college football will fix it. Maybe the 2019 campaign will be one of those special seasons where everything we think is going to happen will be tossed out the window, helping the sport regain some of the traction it has lost in recent years among the most loyal fans. And so now, peeking at the upcoming season's robust schedule, 247 Sports has tried to pick 10 potential upsets that could factor into playoff selection chaos with lasting effects. And so, James Benedetto, AJ Spurr, we get into the top 10 from 247sports.com and Brad Crawford as far as 10 games with upset alert written all over them. Clemson at Syracuse as number 10 on this list on September the 14th.
I mean, Clemson's got to go up to Syracuse, New York. They got to brave that cold, even though they play inside. They got to brave that cold. You know, hey, that's...
Now, keep in mind the last time Clemson went up to the Carrier Dome.
Exactly. So...
And a week after Texas A&M coming into Clemson.
Right. And that's where I thought they would have went with this, because Texas A&M coming in on the road, they have something to prove. So, again, I mean, I foresee them being the upsetter, not the upsetty, in this list. Maybe once or twice, I think. So, I mean, I could see that, because I think this team has a lot to prove. I think Jimbo Fisher has a lot to prove, to show that, hey, Texas A&M football is back. But Clemson going to Syracuse, that's going to be an interesting game. I will definitely tune into that, especially because Syracuse has played Clemson very well these past 2 seasons. I mean, I just, that team has looked, and again, now last year we have to keep in mind an injury to the quarterback, allowing Trevor Lawrence to play. I mean, that was his first start, if I remember correctly. So there were some other wrinkles to this year's matchup that the year prior there weren't. But I'm very interested to see what that game looks like and what happens there.
I'm interested in this partly because, you know, they play at Syracuse right after A&M, which is going to be a rough game. I don't care, you know, if it's a blowout going into it. You know, it's you're preparing for it, and physically they're going to be drained.
Yeah.
Not only that, they beat Syracuse 23-27 at home last year.
Right.
And I feel like Syracuse, I almost feel bad for Syracuse, because they're that team that they're good enough. I mean, they finished 15th in the AP Top 25 at the end of last season. So they're a good team. You know, that's right there in the thick of the top 25. But they're only seen as a team to upset Clemson.
Oh, the
that's their
bride.
That's their only role, really, in college football. They're seen as the spoiler in the ACC. Can they knock Clemson off number 1 in the ACC and maybe ruin their season? That's it. No, I'm sorry. No one knows about any other Syracuse game of next season besides this Clemson one, because it's seen as the potential spoiler.
Now, I don't think we'll have much to say as far as the next few games on this ranking. Washington State versus Houston coming in at number 9, followed by Fresno State at USC at number 8 to open the season.
Whoa. Fresno didn't Bama 2 seasons ago, that was their second opener. Yeah, that was their home opener. I wonder what the final score of that was, and if that made any potential upset
Fresno State
list.
ended up being a pretty decent team that year. Actually had a better than expected season under Jeff Tedford. I believe that was his first season, former Cal coach, as the head coach at Fresno State. Number 7, Colorado State at Arkansas, September the 14th.
Poor Arkansas.
It's Arkansas. I mean,
how long will Chad Morris last up there?
You got to give him the 2 to 3 year grace period. I feel like with any coach, you got to give him 2 or 3 years to try to instill some type of culture. And obviously, he's trying to do that. I just, I mean, again, I don't know. I don't know how much longer than his original coaching stay and that culture setting time, whatever you want to call it, those 2 to 3 years. After that, I'm not sure about his security from there.
Oh, and by the way, I'm not so sure how much of an upset this would be because Arkansas 2-10 last year. Oh, and this is a return trip for Colorado State after coming back from a 27-9 deficit last year at Colorado State to beat Arkansas.
Well, isn't Arkansas there? They have the Texas A&M transfer, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So. I think he's going to start this year too. Even though at media days I said it was going to be a competition. So I mean that could lead to something. I don't see Arkansas qualifying for a bowl game this year, but that's my take on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good take. I don't know. It's just. I hate that this is included in this upset watch because you're talking about a team that's already kind of kicked when it's down, and now you're like saying, okay, well, this mid-major team's going to come in and beat you. I don't know if is Colorado State a mid-major team.
It's a group of 5.
Sorry,
it's a group of 5.
My bad,
it's
my mistake.
West.
Yeah, so group 5 team to come in and they're going to kick you while you're down. Like seriously, is this really what we're talking about?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Arkansas is probably going to be the worst team in the SEC again this year.
Exactly.
So at number six, folks, we get into Michigan at Wisconsin, and that is for September 21st.
I feel like that's just going to be a good game.
Yeah.
This isn't really a lopsided matchup in my eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen what Wisconsin did to Miami. Was it 2 years in a row now? They've whooped Miami in a bowl game.
Okay, but like Miami though, we're not talking about like the old Miami U. We're talking about
obviously, I'm not talking about Ray Lewis and Frank Gore.
No, we're talking about the team that like decides which team they want to be depending on the week.
But they put it down on the U, and Michigan's a good program. Michigan still haven't made the CFP. Harbaugh has taken them right there. We were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
Harbaugh takes them right there, but he's never able to do it.
Well, that's my question. Is this the Harbaugh hot seat year? I mean, I don't know. I can see it kind of happening. I can see it happening. I mean, I know you're laughing at me, but like,
no, I'm laughing because you asked the question. You go, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a valid question at this point, especially with Ohio State not going to be what they're. I mean, again, not the old Ohio State of yesteryear where Urban Meyer was there and that team was able to recruit and they really was able to dominate up there.
And JT Barrett was about 45 years old.
There you go.
Quarterback.
Yeah. The other Hunter Renfrow, he just played quarterback. So I don't know. We'll have to see kind of what this Michigan team is, and I feel like if this team doesn't make a push to be in that top 4, there's got to be some talk.
I don't think, to answer this just super quick, I don't think Harbaugh is on the hot seat. I think if you want to go down 3 or 4 years down the line, maybe, but he's a consistent winner that takes him almost like a who was it Richt from Georgia?
Mark
that
Richt.
was always he was always right there, and Kirby is.
Well, Mark Richt's thing was Georgia always showed up. Well, they generally showed up for the bigger games. It was kind of those mid-level teams, the South Carolinas of the world, even Vanderbilt or Kentucky from time to time that they'd struggle against.
Well, Harbaugh is able to get him there. Can't close the deal. I don't know if that's worth, because Michigan, they're always in the conversation. Yeah. So that's that.
We're going to take a break, and we're going to get into the top 5, and it does have, let's just say, an SEC flavor to it and a helmet school flavor to it in the top 5. So we'll let you kind of get your imaginations on that. And how many SEC West teams are involved as far as this 247 Sports listing of the 10 games with upset alert written all over them? We'll start at number 5 next. We are looking at the 10 games with upset alert written all over them. And so we've gotten now to the top 5 of this listing from 247sports.com and Brad Crawford. And, well, there's plenty of helmet school flavor in the top 5. Really in the top 6 when it comes to Michigan and Wisconsin at number 6. But I know LSU and Texas has been talked about a lot as far as the marquee non-conference games, not only involving SEC schools, but college football. But when it comes to coaching, or when it comes to doing a play-by-play broadcast, something you learn is that when it comes to upset potential, you don't always look at as far as the teams with name brand recognition, but teams that are really good that fly under the radar as far as name recognition. And actually, one of those schools that had a pretty good year last year, a really good year last year, was the Aggies of Utah State, that won 11 games and bring back Jordan Love, one of the country's top quarterbacks. And the Utah State Aggies, folks, go down to Red Stick, to Baton Rouge for an October 5th matchup against LSU. And now keep in mind, folks, for LSU, that is a look-ahead week because Florida comes in to Tiger Stadium the following week. And so maybe, fellas, James and AJ, a big reason why Brad Crawford has at number 5 Utah State at LSU as one of those games, at least in this case, at number 5 as far as upset alert potential.
I mean, that makes sense. I can see that. I think the only question that I would have, and my thing is that, again, I didn't watch a lot of tape on Utah State and the Aggies, but Jordan Love, I'm looking at the stats right now, finished 14th in the country in passing yards with 3,567. Was this just his big year? And does next year he kind of comes back down to earth? Or is this the sign of things to come? And I think that's where, for LSU fans, I think they're hoping that, like, okay, let's just hope he just comes back to earth a little bit. Because he had a very good season. Just by the numbers, you're impressed by the guy. So I'm just wondering, is this he's come back down to earth? Now, again, you made a great point, James. I mean, scheduling-wise, this is a look-ahead game. You know, you got a Florida team next week that you want to beat very badly. So I think that's going to be important to have. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's a very intriguing matchup, something that we definitely will need to watch.
I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a Utah State expert. I'm not. I'm looking at their schedule here from 2018, and just based off of their wins, they've had one loss in 2018. Just based on the blowouts and the point differential in their wins, they played Tennessee Tech. They beat them 12-73. Those are like Alabama numbers. Those are SEC numbers versus a Group of 5 school or an FCS school. That's what we're looking at here. Their one loss came to Boise State at Boise State, 24-33. So still somewhat of a close game. So, do I think that this is actually going to happen where Utah State beats LSU and this is at LSU? No, I don't think this is going to happen. I think LSU isn't going to run over them. I think it's going to be a game, but I do not see Utah State beating LSU, which is currently competing with Alabama and TAMU for the SEC West spot.
I think it's just intriguing because obviously, just again, scheduling alone and then what they did last season, it gives it a little bit more hype than what you would normally see. And I think that's why this pushes up to a top 5 upset alert. But at the same time, I mean, LSU should be able to take care of business. They're at home. They've wanted to make, Tiger Stadium the hardest place in the country to play in. But, go ahead.
If I hear Death Valley at night is one of the scariest atmospheres in college football, again, I'm going to lose it.
Okay.
Because when Alabama went over there, all I heard on social media, everybody that called into any show was, well, Death Valley at night, it's a dangerous place. 29-0.
And what did you call? What you call that?
We've Alabama football seen that script play out time and time again, going into Baton Rouge and coming out victorious.
Oh, 100%. And what did you call it after that? After Alabama went in, won 29-0. You had a really famous line. You called it what? Bryant Denny East?
Oh no, that's Bryant Denny West.
Oh, excuse me, my bad. I didn't want to get that wrong. But hey, there you go.
Oh, you know who it had to take for LSU to break a 31-game winless streak against Alabama at home? Nick Saban.
Dun, dun.
2004. 2004, that was, just saying.
2000.
Oh, excuse me, 2000.
Mike Dubos's last season.
Wow, interesting.
So, continuing on this list, fellas, as far as the 10 games with upset alert potential, from 247 Sports, Oklahoma at Baylor on November the 16th. And here's what Brad Crawford had to write. If you haven't picked up on it yet, I think Baylor is a program on the rise under Coach Matt Rule. And this one's all about catching Oklahoma at the opportune time. A meeting sandwiched between Showdowns versus Iowa State and TCU for the Sooners. Lincoln Riley's teams haven't lacked focus during his tenure, but they haven't been invincible during Big 12 play either, especially on defense. That's where Bears quarterback Charlie Brewer, who threw for 400 yards in Norman last year, could seize an opportunity. Baylor is still a year away from making serious noise as a Big 12 contender, but beating the Sooners in Waco would throw a wrench in the league's championship race.
You said he threw for 400 yards or over 400 yards in Norman? You know, that's great and all, but Baylor still lost to Oklahoma 66-33. Calamari took care of business over there.
Yeah.
So this is at Baylor this year?
Correct.
No, I think Oklahoma not only wins this, I see Oklahoma making the CFP, or at least being in talks to be in the CFP again. So
I mean, if they can
I don't
beat
see
Texas,
this happening either.
If they can beat Texas, they had an issue last year.
Sam Ehlinger scares nobody, but that's a different topic.
Hey, that defense though scares a couple people.
All right.
I mean, they played better than the normal Big 12 defense. I'll just say that. I'm just going to be honest with you. They played better than most of the conference on D, but at the same time, it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do.
We're number 3 now.
We're at number 3, and we go back to the Southeastern Conference.
Uh-oh.
In fact, bring a little crimson white into the picture.
Here we go.
But it's the season-ending trip on November 30th down to Jordan-Hare Stadium for Alabama at Auburn, the Iron Bowl. And why, according to Brad Crawford, does this game have upset potential? The final game likely standing between the Crimson Tide and another unbeaten regular season under Nick Saban is the toughest matchup of the year. A road showdown in the Iron Bowl versus a team that could be playing for Gus Malzahn's job. Alabama faced a similar scenario on the Plains the last time they went down to Auburn in 2017 and lost as Auburn secured a berth in the SEC championship game.
Okay. 2 issues. They omitted 2 big games. They omitted the A&M game on the road, and they omitted the LSU game. So those 2, I see a little bit more of a game there. Auburn, I do believe, will be a good team. Don't get me wrong. Their defense looks very good. They return most of that D-line that really scared a lot of people towards the end of the season. And that offensive line, too, does come back in full force, ready to make a better season out of what they were last year. My issue is at quarterback. Gus Malzahn admitted it at SEC Media Days. There's a competition there. Both guys should be able to run, which I know for some teams that has an issue. But, I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see it on offense, and that's where I have the issue there. Defensively, that Auburn team's going to be good, but I just don't see it. I mean, call me an Alabama fan, but I just don't see it.
Listen, here's my thing. Auburn finished last season 8-5. They went 3-5 in conference play, finished 5th in the SEC West. That's bad as it is, considering you're a program that's usually competing with Alabama, LSU, and maybe even Texas A&M for that top, spot. I mean, in the SEC West, we look at Auburn this upcoming season. They open up against Oregon, and I think really that determines their entire season. And even Gus Malzahn's job at the end of the 2018 season, my views on this have kind of changed, but I was under the impression that if Gus Malzahn doesn't have a winning record by the midpoint in the season, I think he's already gone. I don't think we have to wait until that Alabama game. Yeah,
I mean that Oregon game. Yeah, you make a good point. That Oregon game can really derail the whole season for him. I mean, it's a big game. I mean, college football. The college game day is going to be there. Yeah, I know for that, and they're going to be playing at Jerry World at AT&T Stadium. So that's a primetime game. So if they don't show up for that one, and then we're talking about the midpoint, and maybe they're they have a couple wins and maybe a couple losses. I don't know. I don't know where we're at with that.
Do we know if Bo Nix is going to be the true freshman? Bo Nix is going to be their quarterback?
It's between him and Joey Gatewood, who's a redshirt freshman. And you know what? I'm going to let y'all hear what Gus Malzahn had to say as far as comparing the quarterbacks at SEC Media Days from Thursday.
I think there's as much differences as everybody would think. One thing I can tell you is both those guys will be true run threats from the quarterback position. They both can extend plays when things break down, and they both have outstanding arms. So, one thing I will tell you that will be different is our quarterback will be a run threat. And I know when the quarterback is a run threat, it changes everything from a defensive standpoint, and it's really a lot easier to call plays too.
So Gus Malzahn, at least in the electronic room, to us, AJ, pretty confident about either quarterback as far as really what he's looking for as far as the fit for his offense, while Jarrett Stidham's, as far as a traditional quarterback, certainly better, and losing him as far as his experience is going to hurt. But hearing Gus Malzahn, I hear a lot of confidence in either Bo Nix or Joey Gatewood when it comes to their running ability and just them leading Auburn's offense.
Well, let me tell you this: if he's going with the QB run, side of things, true freshman DJ Dale is going to be right there at nose tackle, staring Bo Nix or Gatewood right in the eyes as soon as he takes that snap. And I don't think either of them want to run into him, and we've got him for the next 3 years. So you know what, Gus? I think you can run with either of those quarterbacks, but I don't think it's going to go too favorable.
Then remember, you got LeBron Ray on the outside. You got Raekwon Davis that's going to be there too. So I mean, I don't know. You got some big players up there that are smart football players for that Alabama D line, and that are able to make really good adjustments. And then also you return most of your defensive backs. And I think for me, if they're going to try to throw the ball, that's the only way to beat Alabama is through the air. I don't know. I just really don't know.
And closing out the top two as far as upset alert potential games from 247 Sports, Brad Crawford, Virginia at Notre Dame on September the 28th. And the top game on this list, Nebraska hosting Ohio State at September 28th. Ohio State's first real road test under first-year coach Ryan Day will be one of the Buckeyes' toughest games this season. It's hard to imagine Nebraska's level of optimism being higher than it was prior to Scott Frost's first run in Lincoln, but even after a 4-8 season, Huskers fans are incredibly excited about what's to come this fall with a Heisman candidate at quarterback, Adrian Martinez, and College Game Day potentially making its first appearance at Memorial Stadium since 2007 for this one. If Nebraska starts the season at 4-0, you're not going to see a more frightening environment nationally for an opposing team than what Ohio State will be forced to deal with in Week 5.
It's crazy to think that Scott Frost goes from winning a national championship down at UCF to going 2-10, and that Nebraska team, if you watched any of their games, they did not look good. And I don't see how. I don't know if this is projecting them to turn their entire season around, because it implies that, if they're good enough to upset Ohio State, I think it'd be safe to assume that their entire season is going to be pretty solid as well if they have that type of talent.
Well, here's their first 4 games. South Alabama at home, at Colorado in Week 2, followed by a home non-conference tilt against Northern Illinois, and then at Illinois to open Big Ten play.
I see them losing to Colorado and Illinois if they play the same way they did last year. Yeah. So what is that, 2-2 right there, and then you bring in Ohio State. I don't see that going Nebraska's way either. So this is number one. I can if it does happen, this is the biggest upset. I agree. This would be number one on my list as well. But as of right now, much like the Utah State LSU game, I don't see this one happening.
I mean, I just wonder, is it so high because of the coaching change? And this is, I forgot, what's the Ohio State head coach's name? What's his name again?
Ryan Day.
Is it because it's Day's first year as a Buckeye head coach, and is that what it is?
Generally, you'll see some issues when it comes to transitioning from one coach to another in that first year, as far as games maybe that a team will lose that they shouldn't.
Which I could agree with that. I just don't know. I don't know if Ohio State has fallen off their wagon so far that Nebraska becomes a big-time threat. I think it will be a closer game than what we're expecting. I will say that. I'll give Nebraska its just due. I'll give them the chance to prove it to everybody. But they're talking as if Nebraska had a very good recruiting class coming in, that they were like top 10 in 2019, which I did not see them up very high. So I don't know. We're going to have to see what they do. I mean, again, Scott Frost did a good job with the UCF program and really making it relevant in these past couple seasons before leaving.
They brought a title to Orlando.
Yeah. You were on that bandwagon, aren't you?
Oh, I'm still on it. You remember I talked about this a lot last year, but no, I love that.
I don't know. I mean,